What up? What up? Welcome into another episode of Profit Picks. If you are new, we always start by being transparent here and didn't do this show yesterday. Didn't have any NBA games yesterday, so not much to really talk about here. But excited. The play-in, I guess, is part of the playoffs, but the real playoffs are gonna start on Saturday. Veno, how you doing today? How's everything been for you?
I am good, buddy. We got it's going to start coming at us, right? 4 tomorrow, 4 more on Sunday. So we're going to be in full opening round playoff mode within the next 24 hours. Should be good. I'm sure we'll do a little look ahead on this show as well, but we got to start with tonight. So had a little extra time last night with nothing on board to look at them even a little bit more. We'll see what we can do to come up with some winners here.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And you know what? I said before the show that I thought Boofer won, but Boofer's wrong. It's not light blue. Light blue is not the color. I read it wrong. So still looking for a winner out there in the chat. And a lot of these guesses, I mean, people come in here guessing early. They're ready to come get that free lunch. Still don't see a winner just yet. Dark green, orange. What up, Ray D'Amico? Nice to see you in here as well, Brandon. Hello, Miss Tasha. She likes my boys tomorrow, first half plus 4.5. I don't think we have a winner here today. Oh,
Nice.
wait, I think we do. I think we do now. We said Lions blue, but it's also considered silver blue.
Yeah, I think we have it written. I think when you sent it to me, it said silver blue, lions blue. Yeah,
Okay. So
that's a
Eddie
winner.
Cash is the winner for today. And just hit me up, whether you comment after the show, you DM me on Twitter, or you hit me in the Discord. We'll see if we can get you, squared away. So appreciate you guys all guessing, and shout out to Eddie Cash for being the winner and getting that free lunch today. So let's get to it, Rob. 2 games on
Yeah,
the slate today. We'll talk about a little bit more than that. But first up, Kings and Pelicans. And opened up Pels 1.5 point favorites. They're now pick 'em. Total, I mean, it's plummeted. It's dropped 8 points all the way down to 210.5. We know there's no Herder, no Malik Monk for Sacramento, and we now know there's no Zion for the Pelicans. Um, it's interesting. I mean, Ingram must be on a minutes restriction or something with how they were treating him. But my first thought here, Rob, or how I thought about this game, I've been going back and forth, and it's been like this. If Zion was in, I would have absolutely run to the window and bet the Pelicans. Just because I'm not a believer in the Kings, even though they destroyed the Warriors. I just feel like they're missing too much. And I know that the Pelicans have beaten them every time, but majority of those games, I think all except for one, Zion was doing the heavy lifting. This Pelicans team has still been good without Zion as long as they've had Ingram and McCollum, but they've been versus lesser competition teams. So I'm a little bit conflicted here. I absolutely do not want the Kings, but can you give me any push towards the Pelicans, Robino?
well, I think I can, Ski. I mean, I talked about this earlier on Wager Talk today, but we've done enough of that NBA tip-off show together to know that ever since we started that show, the one phrase that we use that basically that show is known for is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when you're 5-0 against somebody, it ain't broke. And I'm going to go through some stuff here, Ski, which probably could do a little convincing where side is concerned, but I played total. I mean, I just don't understand this 8-point downward move. I'll explain why in a second, but we know how these injury chasers are. 8 points to me is just out of the realm of question here. Let's start with this. They just played last week.
Mm-hmm.
In that game last week in Sacramento, Brandon Ingram did not play. Zion did, Ingram didn't. That game was 135 to 123, 258 points. Tonight you're staring at 210. Honestly, is Zion not being there worth 48 points? I mean, Malik Monk and Kevin Herter didn't play either. I would start right there. Then I would say this. When you start going through the history of their 5 games, it's like every single game, one or two of these stars hasn't played. And every single one of the games they played has hit 222 or better. 222 is 12 points more than what they're asking for right now. And they've done it without these guys. So I'm going to start. I just told you about the one that we watched last week, right? That 135, 123. And in that game, Skee, there was a lot on the line, right? I think they were fighting to get to the real playoff spot, the 6th spot. Sacramento lost it at that point. New Orleans still had a chance, but then they got beat by the Lakers and they lost it. But they were both highly motivated and they still played 258. You would think, and I probably was on with you last week, and part of the line of thinking when it comes to games like that is maybe a little bit of defense takes over. It didn't take over at all. 258 points. So let's go back to the January 7th game, which was the 4th time they played this year. Zion didn't play in that game. So you got no Zion, which we have tonight. De'Aaron Fox, he scored 3 points. He was 1 for 10 from the field. He scored 3 points, and the game hit 233. And by the way, without Zion, New Orleans won that game 133-100. They won by 33 points without him, just where side is concerned. But the game hit 233. I'll go back one more to December 4th, where Zion played, but he was terrible. Scored 10 points. In that game, C.J. McCollum didn't play for the Pelicans. So you got no C.J. McCollum. You got Zion lousy, and they wound up scoring 244 points. Go back one more before that. Monk and Herder don't play. Monk and Herder do play, but they go 4 of 18 from the floor, 22%. You think, oh my God, they're not shooting well. It's not going to go over. It hits 229. Every single one of these games has been missing somebody important. Every single game has flown over 210. I don't know that anybody, and it may happen. Don't get me wrong. We're gambling here. We're betting on games, but it'd be hard for somebody to convince me that this game can't be 107, 104 and cover a number. Now, full disclosure here, I got a little bit screwed. I got so excited, I bet it at 212, not knowing it was going even further down to 210. So I need 108, 105 was my original thinking. I still think, I just don't understand how these two teams playing 5 games the way they did, without starting players that are important the way they did, and the matchup Skee usually speaks louder than anything else. And in this matchup, New Orleans owns the boards and Sacramento pushes the pace. And you get that kind of combination, you wind up with a lot of second chances and you wind up with a lot of fast break points, like we just saw in 135, 123. So for me, I bet it over. And again, I got 212. I could certainly see betting New Orleans at home here without Zion. Let's face it, last year they played a ton without Zion. He was on the floor a lot this year, but it's not like they don't know how to play without him. So I would probably lean on the side with the Pelicans, and certainly I'm already on the total over.
A lot of people like what you're saying in the chat. You did make a lot of good points. I just want to try to give some pushback. Since that last game, the Kings played the Pelicans. They've been playing some damn good defense. I mean, they held Golden State to 94. They held Portland to 82. They held the Suns to 108. I mean, my thought process here with the Kings is like, if they're going to be competitive, knowing they're missing all these extra guys, they has to start on the defensive end. And it looks like that's what we've been seeing. So does that bother you at all?
Well, they were missing those guys 8 days ago or 7 days ago, and they pushed the pace to 135, 123. The Kings were. I like the way, Skee, I haven't brought this up much this year, but you'll know when I say it. I use this category called potential points. Every shot goes in the basket.
It's been a while since we've heard that.
Yeah, you haven't heard that one in a while. The 5 games that these teams have played, 466 points on average are available, which is a lot of points. And what's even crazier is that in 3 of those games, these two teams combined to score over 50% of the points. And New Orleans has shot 54.6% on average in 5 games against this team. Just make shots, make shots, make shots, make shots. And I think in the end, for me, it just does come down to the matchup. Like the game against the Lakers, and I guess I should point that out. New Orleans plays the Lakers. It really was a low-scoring defensive game for the most part, but it still got to 216, 110, 106 final. Got some free throws in the end. I think LA made every free throw down the stretch. And that game comes with Los Angeles being the better defensive team at the rim, right? Anthony Davis is much better than Sabonis is on the interior. Probably need Keegan Murray to make shots the way he did last game or somewhat close to that. But I guess in my case, I am playing matchup. It doesn't look these two teams are changing at all through 5 games. And if it was a 7-game series and maybe we had adjustments by game 4, I would think different. But here, I just think the number is too low, Skee. I think they probably pushed it, for my liking, way too low at this point. Because in modern day NBA basketball, 211 is not that hard to come by. It's really not.
And I think I heard you say something about expecting Keegan Murray to shoot like that again. I forget the exact number, but it was like a 10% difference between his home road splits and how well he shoots the 3 ball. So I wouldn't expect him to be as great tonight. Keon Ellis, we'll see if we get the same thing from him, but I'll lean with the Pelicans probably more than anything. And Rob is liking the over here. So good stuff on this game. Let's move it on over to the next one. And here comes S. Dot right on time. Bulls and Heat opened up Heat minus 2.5, and they're now 1.5 point favorite. Total has dropped about 3.5 points. Looks like 206 as far as who's available. Jimmy and Rozier both out. Duncan Robinson looks like he is probable for tonight. For the Bulls, Caruso, DeSumo, and Drummond all questionable. So I'll start this one here, Rob, by saying my initial thought is the Heat without Jimmy Butler. I don't want any parts. But we talked about it yesterday. We talked it out, and I think I saw you, Capper. Might have been yesterday. But he said the Heat are 5-0 straight up, and I think it was straight up and ATS as a home favorite without Jimmy Butler. And that surprised me. I do trust Spoelstra to have some kind of game plan ready for these guys. And I prefer to trust the Heat. I just trust them more than I trust the Bulls. So I'm leaning in that direction. How do you see this game going?
A couple of ways. First thing, and we could check this, maybe the chat can help us here, because I thought I saw about an hour ago that Alex Caruso is now probable to play. I didn't think he was going to play. The ankle looked pretty tough when Drummond stepped on him the other night. But I think I saw he's probable to be in this game, which helps Chicago a big deal. DeSumo and Drummond, not sure. The Heat have lost a lot, right? I was hoping Terry Rozier would play in this game, but he got ruled out yesterday. But still, when I look up and down the lineup, Skee, I kind of side with you. It just seems to me that Miami's the one team in the NBA that just plays through cluster injuries all the time. They're never whole, basically. If there's 82 games, they're probably whole with a full rotation, I don't know, less than 10 games a year. So they definitely are a bunch of interchangeable parts. You got Hero, you have Caleb Martin, you have Jaquez, you have Bam. Off the bench, you have Kevin Love and probably Duncan Robinson tonight. It might be enough to get past this team. We just talked about, can Keegan Murray shoot the way he did the other night? Can Kobe White put up 42 the way he did the other night against the Hawks? Probably not, because the Hawks don't play any defense whatsoever. I like the way Chicago's playing. I do think that they want to win this game, even though they're not going to go any further. But the other stuff, and you mentioned them both, I think overrides it for me. I trust Spoelstra way more than Billy Donovan to get it right. And you're giving Miami a shot at 2 home games here. And they were so close in that game the other night. So even without Jimmy, maybe it's the Heat. I tried to look at total, and I might have looked, you know me with the Heat, I might have found some way to play over if, in fact, Caruso wasn't going to play, because he's probably the best defender on that team on the perimeter, and that would have helped Miami. But it looks like he's in. I'm kind of at a crossroads. I'll be honest, I haven't bet anything in this game yet. But if we did the proverbial gun to the head type deal, I think I would probably lean a little bit on Miami. This total, 209.5 down to 206. 206.5. 206 is the lowest out there. 3.5 points only for Jimmy Butler. That seems kind of, when you're pushing it 8 points for Zion, I don't know. Seems a little bit low to me, but I don't have a good feeling on total either side. So right now, like I said, I'm at a crossroads, but I would probably lean with you on Miami in this case, just because I trust Eric Spoelstra in the home floor.
Yeah, this is another one. And like if there was no injury, if Jimmy was in, I'm running to the window to bet the Heat. But also we did talk about it yesterday. The Heat are 16-6, I believe it was, to the under without Jimmy Butler. Granted, a lot of those totals were not 206. They were like, averaging more like around the 219-ish mark, I believe. So very low total here today. But elimination games, we do see some of them be low or some of them lower scoring. So we'll move it on over, Rob. We'll talk about some Saturday or Sunday, talk about some of these from a series perspective. And I want to ask you, is there any of these series that you're maybe more excited to talk about than the others? If not, I'll go to one that I have on my mind.
Yeah, we can go through whatever you want to. Skee, I bet two of them. I'll just start that way. I bet two of them. One, it's hard in this business. You say one thing and then you go ahead and bet another, right? I just talked about how important I think matchups are when I played Sacramento, New Orleans over the total tonight. And then I didn't totally disregard it, but I overrode myself when I played Minnesota for the series at plus 115 with home floor advantage against Phoenix, because Phoenix has crushed them in that series. But I did bet Minnesota and I did bet Indiana, and we can go from there. Whatever you have that you want to talk about, we can talk about that as well.
Well, let's go Suns and T-Wolves,
Okay.
because I've been thinking very similar to you. I mean, the Suns, I kind of think about it a couple different ways. For one, you have three guys who are injury prone. All three of them: Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Booker. And the Suns they haven't been good in the fourth quarter. The Suns' defense also untrustworthy, and defense has been a strength for this Minnesota team. I don't think they'll have a problem with that. Um, and I do trust Anthony Edwards to play better in these playoff games than whatever we've seen from him in the regular season versus Suns. As just the kind of player I believe he is. I want to bet the T Wolves too. I'm curious to hear you say why you like them.
I gave you a couple of reasons why. And let's just start with the fact that we're trying to overcome the fact that Phoenix has dominated and found some type of way to contain, not stop, but contain Anthony Edwards. Like you said, first of all, I think the home floor advantage is important. I think Minnesota, that arena is going to be like a college type atmosphere for that team. So I think that's huge. The second thing that you said right off the bat, I do think there's just such a big defensive disparity between these two teams that in playoff time, when it comes down to possession by possession, they have shot makers, yes, but Minnesota has really, really good defenders and good team defense as well. I'm also not sold on the fact that Minnesota is just this young bunch of inexperienced guys. I mean, how many playoff games did Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley play in with Utah? They played in a zillion playoff games. And if you want to even go to the bench, Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, he's been in 51 postseason games. So they're not this, wet behind the ears type of team that's getting their first crack at something like this. I just don't buy into that. I ran across a number, Skee, that sold me for good in games when Mike Conley Jr., Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert, in games when those four guys have all been on the floor together this season, the team averages 120.6 points per 100 possessions. That would rank number 3 in the NBA for offensive efficiency if, in fact, they had played enough together to qualify. So we got those four guys together now, and it shows you don't necessarily correlate Minnesota with really good offense, but that shows you right there that those four guys, that combo, would be the third best quartet in the NBA right now. I think Cat back with a few games under his belt now certainly is important here. Phoenix, I don't think, has the size to match up with the two bigs. Cat's going to roam around the three-point line. Minnesota only scored 102.7 points per game against this team, but I do think that they'll be able to score better than that and shoot better than the 30% that they shot from three. I think those numbers will improve. To me, Phoenix is a one-trick pony. Skee. They're shooters, they're scorers. And the question I ask myself, do I think they can outscore Minnesota 4 times to win a series? And I don't know that they can. So plus price was attractive with home floor, with defense, with that hidden statistic that I found. I think I like Minnesota plus 115.
I do too. Mino says Wolves have injury prone players too. Cat, Gobert, Conley. I don't view Gobert as injury prone. I don't really view Cat as that either. I mean, I don't know. And I don't think I'm biased for this Wolves team. That's just not how I view them. So maybe we just disagree in that regard. But Rob Vino and myself, we both liking the Timberwolves in this series. And I do think, point about the size difference, that size is going to really hurt, or, the Suns are going to struggle with the size for Minnesota. That's just how I view it. So we shall see. We'll move it over to one. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. The only reason I want to talk about this is because my friends have been talking about it all morning long, all night long, because as a fan, it's a pretty important series for us. I didn't want to talk about it when the playoffs first started. I was hoping that the Lakers matched up on the other side of the bracket, honestly. But Lakers and Nuggets, um, I think the Lakers do have a better chance of beating the Nuggets this year than last year. Um, I think that a couple of the guards they picked up will be able to help them out as far as defending Murray. Here's how I view the Lakers. Things they got to do for the Lakers to win. I've been trying to think about what they can actually do, but number one, I think the Nuggets they score a lot of points in the paint. I think they're going to do their best to pull Anthony Davis outside of the paint. So maybe you match up him with Gordon, or so he can still be that rim protector when Jokic is away from the rim, et cetera, et cetera. Do your best, some kind of scheme to keep Anthony Davis close to the paint. Number two, we can't have these kind of possessions or we can't have too many of these possessions where the Lakers are just like freelancing. I've been talking about it down the stretch of the season. A big main reason why the Lakers have looked better is because they're running organized offense. So I think they need to continue that for majority of the time. They need to try to get stops so they can get out in transition because the offense is really good in transition. LeBron, don't matter if he's 40. You do not want to see LeBron coming at you downhill in transition. So I think that, and just Darvin Ham, just please, for the love of God, no 3-guard lineups. We're not going to win if we're throwing out 3-guard lineups against this Denver Nuggets team. I think last year we got a very poor series, a very poor performance from D'Angelo Russell, and he's been playing pretty damn good. Down ever since they started talking about trading him back in what was it, either January or early February. He's been on a tear. So I think he'll be a lot better, and I think the Lakers will have a game plan for the rest of the things that I'm thinking about. Also, we just got to think about how the Lakers can survive when LeBron is not on the floor, because that's pretty big. And I think if you stick with D'Lo pick and roll, I think the Lakers offense will be solid enough to stick with them. With all this said, Ravino, the Lakers, I think they're capable of playing, a few perfect games, but I feel like they can play a lot of perfect games and still not win. That's how good Denver is. So while I think there is ways for the Lakers to win games, I'm not certain that they can win the series. I do, however, think that this game goes more than 5 games. And over 5.5 games for this series was minus 140. I think, even if the Nuggets win, the Lakers get 2 this time around. Or if the Lakers win, they're not sweeping the Nuggets. So over 5.5 games, I think is my preferred wager for this one. Is there any way you see the Lakers being competitive in this series, or what do you like in this one?
Yeah, well, the first thing, and I mean, it's not rocket science. and he's played 76 games this year, but you have to have Anthony Davis. It can't be game 2, he goes down and the whole series goes down with him. So they do have a linchpin to their hopes, and it's him. A couple of things I like, Skee, real quick. You were talking about some of the acquired players, but I do think that with his size and with his defensive ability, Gabe Vincent can be an asset defending the perimeter. He did it with Miami all those years. He can shoot some threes as well. He's playoff tested. I think Gabe Vincent goes a little bit unheralded. We'll see. Obviously,
He did actually finally play a good game like recently.
Yeah, and it's probably
the time where he shows up.
He's been out a long time. So yeah, I think that he knows what these battles are like. And we'll see what Darvin Ham decides to do with him. Spencer Dinwiddie's another guy who can contribute offensively. They've got enough depth, I think. I like you think they're going to play a lot of transition because that's what you want to do against Denver. But then again, it's hard because Michael Malone at times encourages his team to play transition. He actually thinks they're better in transition, despite the fact that their tempo rating is always so slow. They get out and they go. If I was just to look at it on paper and you just match player for player, you would say, LA does have a decent chance. I mean, Austin Reeves has played well. I think your point about D'Angelo Russell is crucial here. He's got to keep playing that way because last year, remember, they couldn't keep him on the floor, right? He couldn't defend, couldn't shoot, garbage. But I don't think they're getting swept. So I was going to look at it from some type of either I'll go game by game or some type like you played over 5.5, something in that realm where it's game exact score type of bet. I'm torn between the fact of whether or not the Lakers get 1 or 2 here. I think they can honestly get 2. I think they can go back home and get 1. It's another series. I think I had some notes here, Skee, and I lost them now, but you could probably help me out. It's another series where Denver has dominated the Lakers, correct?
Yes.
Denver's just
Lakers,
been all
I don't remember
over.
the last time Lakers have won a game versus the Nuggets.
Yeah, it's a very tough matchup for them. But I think Nuggets win the series. I just can't play them at -$4. So for me, it's going to have to be a little bit of a game by game, and maybe potentially here, Skee, it's a good in-game type of series because you can see what's going on and whether or not Darvin Ham is being outcoached by Michael Malone. As much crap as we give Michael Malone for his sporadic temper tantrums, he's a good coach, and that team's always ready. So we'll see. I haven't bet it either way yet. I think tomorrow might be an over. I generally, in first game of 7-game series, think that's the best time to get overs because there are no adjustments made in the first game. They seem to make them as the series goes on, and then they get a little more defensive-minded. So maybe I'll be on the over, thinking LA will try and run, and Denver probably goes with them a little bit.
That sounds good to me. I can agree with that. And when I think about Denver, it was this way I remember a playoff. It might not have been this past year, or maybe it was, but first half overs for the Nuggets were killing more than anything else. And when I think about the Lakers, like if it gets to the end of the game, as much as I don't want it to happen, I can see LeBron, milking that clock and just taking forever. Whereas in the first half, I think they are trying to push that pace and, play a little bit more fast. So first half over, shaded that way. First half over is 114.5. Full game is 223.5. What do you think about getting in and getting out with that?
You could get in and out with that. And if you want to play full game over in a 7-point game, I guess you would figure that you would get some free throws at the end of the contest here if it stays to form and the odds makers are right. When you were talking, Skee, another thought popped into my head as far as foul concerns with either Jokic or Anthony Davis. And I don't know, maybe we have to keep our eye on the crew chiefs for these games to make sure we don't get referees who want to foul people out. But those two guys have to stay on the floor in order to for their teams to be effective. But I could see first half going over. I lean a little more full game because I do think you'll get scoring in the end. And I'd probably lean full game more because I think it's going to be played at a quicker pace. I'll make that um, the reason why. But hey, first half, I could see it. I don't know. I'm trying to look up the Lakers' first half totals record this year real quick.
Here goes Munaf helping us out. Lakers best
Okay,
team on the road to the first half over.
there you go.
26-14-1.
It seems like they get out quick.
So I like that. That seems like a pretty solid look. I can see both teams now very hard offensively to start that series. KD in the building says best regards from Athens, Greece. To you and Mr. Veno, appreciate you watching from way over there. Hopefully we can help, put some money in your pocket. Last on this series that I want to say here, Rob, is and some people, Derek says, "Oh, this Laker talk is so BS." Back to the Nuggets.
They probably do
um,
win it.
I'll say this: two things. I'll say here. One, last year the Nuggets were extremely motivated. Not that they are not motivated now, but they were extra motivated because they were trending like this, and they felt like they were being disrespected because quote unquote all everybody talks about is the Lakers, blah blah blah, and they went on to win the entire thing. Now being the champions, being everybody's looking at them, there's no more surprise. Lakers kind of no pressure or playing. Maybe it is pressure, but I don't know. That's kind of how I'm viewing it right now. And I'll ask this question here, Rob. If the Lakers win this series, do you think they win the West?
Who do you know? What I just had the bracket out. Who did they?
They would play next the winner of Minnesota and Phoenix, and then after that, the other side of the bracket, Dallas Clippers, OKC Kings.
Wow, it's a hard road, isn't it? It's a
It
hard
is.
road. Wow. I don't know that they would make it out, um, but I wouldn't sell them short. That's a tough road, Ski, to win 3 series in a row like that. That's a tough road. Real quick, I wanted to add one more thing here about the Lakers. Last year, when the Lakers were in the playoffs, I remember us always talking about how miserable of a 3-point shooting team they were. They're not that this year. They make threes. They're inside the top 10 in 3-point percentage, which is a big difference from the team they brought to the table last year. So not only they have a little bit of size, but they also can shoot from the perimeter. I think a lot of that is due to LeBron having a good 3-point season. But it's certainly better than the way they went into this thing last year.
All right, I feel like we did a lot of good work on this series, and it's time to move right along. The back end to that, though, I don't know if you saw this. I did say the Lakers' best team on the road to the first half over, but also Nuggets tied for best home record to the first half over. So two things lining up right there could be the right way to go to start in game one. I know you said there's another series that you bet, but there's some questions from the chat. So
Yeah.
let's see if we can touch what they want to hear a little bit here. A couple guys asked about the Knicks and 76ers. So we'll move it on over there. Last I saw, I didn't update it this morning, but I updated it yesterday. Last I saw it was pretty much a pick 'em, -110, -110, Sixers versus Knicks. And I'll say like this, the 76ers, I do think they have a solid coach. I just I don't trust the health of Embiid. Usually it takes a round or so. Like in the second round, he starts to kind of fall apart. But this year, I mean, he already was falling apart before the playoffs even started. And in that last game, he maybe looked like he was 70%, 65%, nowhere close to 100%. So for him to start a series like this against a gritty physical Knicks team, um, who does have rest advantage. For as much as I talk about, Tibbs runs his players into the ground, Knicks have had 5 days off before this series starts. So they should be well rested. I think it's a lot of advantages for the Knicks. They're healthy besides Julius Randle, who I don't even like. I think the Knicks are live to win this series. And honestly, I'll skip ahead. I think the Knicks have a pretty easy road. They get through this one to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. How do you feel about those two things, Vino?
If again, it's so hard to know what the truth and what the non-truth is here. But if Embiid was healthy, I wouldn't hesitate to play Philadelphia. I just don't think that they could stop. They could stop him in any way, shape, or form. But it's been brought out to the forefront the last couple of days, and it's true. If you watch the game the other night, he still had 23 points, Skee, or whatever. He had 23 or 25, and he can't even move side to side. I had listened to a Knicks beat writer talk about how Isaiah Hartenstein, who will be assigned to Embiid, is going to try and just almost like guard harass, like pick him up free throw line or beyond free throw line and just make him go side to side. Make him try and play some type of defense too on that end to maybe grind him down over the course of a series. I think Philly's got a height advantage. I like what Philly did at the trade deadline. I mean, when you get Buddy Hield and when you get Nicholas Batum, who came in handy the other night, they've got a little bit of size, but you can't trust them without Embiid being 100% healthy, I don't think, and that could go out from under you any second. And Jalen Brunson has just not slowed down. I mean, I don't want to sell this guy short either because Jalen Brunson, just every single game is a force. Really good series, priced pretty well. I think the beginning of the series, if you're going to take Philadelphia game by game, play them early because I think as the series goes on and as Thibodeau's defense works him, he might be less and less effective as the series rolls on, So I would probably look Knicks tomorrow for sure in Madison Square Garden. That's one thing I'll say for sure. I'm probably going to be on Knicks tomorrow at home in front of that crowd, ready to go. And then from there, I'll have to take it step by step.
Fair enough. I think I can agree that the Knicks look good tomorrow. I think the Knicks look good for the series. Dia says as long as OG is healthy, Knicks win the series. OG does make a hell of a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if my memory serves me correctly, he and Embiid don't really like each other. They
okay.
What OG the Raptors versus the Sixers, that series, I feel like there was a lot of getting into it between OG and Embiid. So I'm sure he would love to stick it to him. Dia also says his Embiid's knee is compromised. Tibbs gonna attack him.
Yeah.
Derek says New York has multiple bodies to throw at Embiid at less than 100%. And he also says, who on Philly is checking Brunson? A lot of good comments coming in here. I think I agree with most of them. Anything before we move on?
And the good news, if you're going to back Philly here, is you don't have Ben Simmons passing up layups in a playoff series, and you don't have James Harden just deciding not to show, 4 out of 7 games. You have Tyrese Maxey now who will show if you're a Philadelphia backer. But it is all those points that were made, Skee, very, very true. And Tom Thibodeau is going to go after this guy. And Nick Nurse, we can't sell him short as a playoff coach either. That's probably the best coaching matchup on the sidelines in a series is Nurse against Thibodeau.
Honestly, I think I like Nurse better, but I don't trust Embiid's health. That's what it boils down to me. And I like the Knicks. I like what they've showed this year. Mino says Knicks starter is going to be tired by game 3 since Tibbs going to play them 45 minutes. Well, the good thing about round 1 is you get a lot of rest in between each game.
Yeah.
So he may still go with that 45 minutes, but we'll see how it shakes out for that one. There was another question in the chat, or maybe no, I don't think there was. So I'll ask you, Rob. Was there another series besides the ones we talked about it that you're eager to discuss?
Well, I probably wouldn't be eager on any show other than yours, but let's go anti-Glenn Rivers and talk about Indiana because, see, that made you smile. We'll go opposite of – I just can't, again, it's funny. Every single one of these series we've talked about, Skee, is injury.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with these injuries? And the Giannis one probably as big as any. Who knows how many games he won't be present for? But I'll say this: you talked about OG and Embiid maybe not liking each other. We know the Pacers don't like the Bucks since they stole Giannis's 64-point ball and ran down the runway and gave it to a kid who made his first basket in the NBA. So, and Indiana's beat him senseless all season long. As motivated as Milwaukee was, and as ticked off as they were, they still couldn't beat this team this year. They beat them one time, 1-4 in the series. How about this? Giannis accounted for 211 points in this series. He averaged 42.2 against the Pacers, and now that's gone. So he had 54 and 64 in two of the games that he played. There's no way they can duplicate that, Skee. There's just no way they can duplicate that. And we all get that the Pacers are not a defensive-minded team, but they'll be more than happy, in my mind, to shoot it out with Milwaukee at this point. The Pacers, in 5 games against the Bucks, they were never held to less than 122, and they averaged 128.8, almost 129 a game. If they're going to get that kind of scoring, which I think they can, then they're probably going to win this series. You don't have home court, so that's important. And in that 5-game series, I think one of them was played in Las Vegas, so they're not all true home court games. But still, if Indiana can get out there and steal one in Milwaukee right away while Giannis isn't present, and maybe, who knows, maybe 2 if he doesn't play the first 2 games, I just think they're the better team right now, and especially if he doesn't play, I would get to him early. And the other thing I'll say is when Giannis does show up on the floor, we just don't know how good he's going to be. 50%, 65%, 90%, who knows what he's going to be. So I don't trust, Rivers has not made an ounce of difference in that team. I don't have to sell you on that. They're no better than they were than when he got hired. They're not a better defensive team. And I'll just steal from you. If you can't get stops, then I can't be on your side. And I know Indiana doesn't get them, but I think Indiana scores. I trust Halliburton and that crew. And since they got Siakam, this is the type of moment that they got Siakam for, right? These playoffs. So I bet Indiana. I think they were, in fact, I'll look right here. They were plus 110 when I bet them. So I like the Pacers.
And I could agree. I mean, it's absolutely no way I'm putting my money on the Bucks. Everybody knows that. Giannis missing, huge deal. Already wouldn't trust him if he was in. And Glenn, he's gonna do what Glenn does. So I think you laid it up. Yeah, you laid it all out there. I would only look towards the Pacers in this one. No way I'm putting my money on the Bucks. Says Bobby Portis props for the player prop bettors, and he should absolutely step up without Giannis out there. There was, I thought I saw a question, but we only have a couple more, so we'll just knock them out here, Rob. We have one I don't. Well, I have some stuff to say about this one. My initial thought was no way in hell am I laying with the Cavaliers. Absolutely not. They just don't seem like the team I want to trust. Feel like they have locker room issues. I think they need to get rid of Donovan Mitchell. I think he is on the way out the door. And they haven't given me a lot to like watching this Cavaliers team. The Magic, they've been a lot better than everybody thought. Maybe didn't look their best lately, but just the plus price is enticing to fade this Cavs team. The one thing that holds me up here is the Magic are very young and experienced. And the Cavaliers, even if they haven't been playing as great as I think they should, they still got Mobley and Allen down there to help protect the paint. That's where the Magic thrive. And if they can't get those easy baskets inside, they might have trouble winning this series. So I'm curious how you feel about Magic versus Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to cap the capper, I would have said exactly what you said. You would be on Cleveland because I know we've talked about Orlando enough. And if you can't shoot from the perimeter, you yourself can't play them. And Orlando still doesn't shoot from the perimeter. Now they make do with that inside game. Paolo Banchero has become a real stud, as has Franz Wagner. But to your final point there, Cleveland matches up down low. And I always say that when I start an Orlando Magic breakdown. If I think they have a front court advantage, I'm on them. If they don't have a front court advantage, you can't be on. And, 107, 107 end of game, you'd rather have Garland, Mitchell, the two. You don't want Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris Jr., and these guys that Orlando's going to have. So I think in a playoff series, Cleveland's probably the right side despite all of their problems, maybe internally. And I'm with you. I thought Orlando has got a shot. I don't want to make it sound like Orlando doesn't have any shot, but which one would I play? I would prefer to play Cleveland just because I think in a close series, they have the shot makers. And in the end, they can match on the boards, rim protection, that type of stuff that Orlando has, they have as well.
Fair enough. And at the same time, Cavs can win. I refuse to lay $2 with them. So this is one where I just probably will not get involved. Let's talk about the last one up here, Rob. And you should know, everybody should know, Clippers gonna clip, man. Yeah, do not put your money on the Clippers if you would like to keep it. That's all I would like to say. There's a lot of reasons to not like them, and I'll start with this. Kawhi, he's had what, knee inflammation. He's missed 8 games in a row. They've lost their last 3 games. And if Kawhi is unavailable, I mean, the 3 games they played in the playoffs last year without him, they lost every single one. So that's already a negative, just his status up in the air. You already have James Harden, who's been hobbled. James Harden, who gets worse the more the series goes on. He will quit on the team in a heartbeat. Don't trust him. And do I really even need to talk about Russell Westbrook? I feel like I've said enough over the years. He's not a player you want on your team in the playoffs. It's just as simple as that. He's been really good for the Clippers, during the regular season. Whatever. Playoff basketball, Westbrook has been bounced in the first round 5 of the last 6 years. Ever since KD left for a reason. That's how I see it. So on top of all those things, I mean, I really don't trust any of these guys to stay healthy. Everybody's injury prone. Harden, Westbrook, Kawhi, Paul George. I feel like Paul George is about done with the Clippers too. It's a whole lot not to like from the Clippers side. Now, when you look at the Mavericks, it's quite the opposite. I mean, really good supporting cast for Luka ever since the trade deadline. They added Gafford, they added Washington. They haven't lost very many games. I know before those last 2 where they sat Luka and Kyrie, they had won 16 out of 18. So playing their best basketball, they're gonna have the best player on the court and Luka and a very clutch player in Kyrie. I think the Mavericks are the right side here, whether Kawhi plays or not. What do you think, Veno?
I think so too. And Luka hates the Clippers, and Luka chews up the Clippers. Goes way back to when, Pat Beverly tried to guard him and they had to put him on the bench because he couldn't handle it. And it goes way back to when, I'm forgetting the power. Montrezl Harrell, correct. Started with Luka, and he's just shredded that team ever since. And I'll reiterate what you were saying about the Mavericks as opposed to the Clippers right now. Kyrie and Luka seem to be getting along outstanding at this point in time. I mean, Kyrie had nothing. I've read a whole article on how great he said it was playing with Luka and how it's very comparable to when he played with LeBron. And these two guys have averaged like 57 points a game combined over the course of their last, I think, 15 or 20 games. So Luka's a triple-double waiting to happen. Kyrie could do it at any time. And the difference is in Dallas, exactly what you said. I mean, I don't think we would have ever, we've been talking NBA together for about 4 or 5 years now. I don't think we would have ever thought we'd have the moment where we said Dallas is the number 1 rated defensive team. But over the course of the last 20, 25 games, that's what it was. Because Derek Lively can defend the rim, because Daniel Gafford can defend the rim, because PJ Washington became the best 3 that they've had since Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Defense and 3-point shooting. So got all the components now. Tim Hardaway Jr. is an added piece, but I think that their mindset is so good right now. And again, the Kawhi injury, as you mentioned, troublesome. And James Harden, no thank you. Just no thank you with that. So I know the Clippers are a deep team. I feel like we said that last year. Oh my God, the Clippers have so much depth. Doesn't mean you're going anywhere. There's been a big move on this series, Ski. I mean, Dallas, you're showing them they're minus 135 now, and there was a point where they were underdog. But I don't think they're an underdog in this. They might wrap this up in 6. It could be less if the Clippers fall apart. But I'm on Mavericks. I like Mavericks.
For the record, I never said any of those things about the Clippers. I've been telling everybody I can tell since Kawhi and Paul George came over there, they will not win. And that remains. They will not win. So it just is what it is. Clippers gonna clip. We got through every series that is up for now. We still have a couple to be determined based on the games for tonight. But I am curious before we get out of here with best bets. NBA conference winners, Mr. Veno. You know how we do. If you have to make a pick, gun to your head. We'll start with the East. And if you had to make a pick, we'll say, or I'll start it like this, so you can follow how I'm doing. I made 2 bets preseason for both conferences. So when I'm saying these things, it's obviously going to be, I don't have to think about betting those 2 teams. The Celtics, I bet plus 175. They're now like minus 220. And even at minus 220, I'm not looking to bet them, even if I thought they were going to win. I might just sit on the sidelines. But if there's another team who I think can get there, can potentially win, I like the road that the New York Knicks have. They're facing a banged up Joel Embiid. They'll face either in the next round of inexperienced young Pacers team or a Bucks team with banged up Giannis and a terrible coach. And then after that, very likely they'll go and face the Celtics where if it matches up like that, the Knicks are 10-1 to win the Eastern Conference. And if I already have Celtics plus 175 in my pocket, I can make money regardless. And it could turn out to a point where it was one year I had the Warriors and the Celtics both to win the finals. And they played each other. And I believe I put everything I had on the Celtics on the Warriors. I could do something like that. So I like the position where I can, I don't have too much risk at that point. So Knicks would be my choice right now based on the current numbers. How do you feel about it in the East?
Yeah, and I'm seeing a spot, Ski, where I could get 12-1 on the Knicks, even better than 10-1. But they're the only logical choice, right? And it could Indiana upset them. It's possible. I mean, Indiana's like that boxer that has a puncher's chance because they're so good on that end of the floor. But over the course of a 7-game series, if it's on paper the way it is as we're looking at it right now, and there's no injuries, then you would think the Knicks have the best chance. Again, if we could guarantee Joel Embiid's going to play this whole thing and be healthy, that's a different story. I'd probably take Philadelphia, but you just can't at this point in time guess that way. So I think Knicks, that's the best price for a team that has a legitimate shot. The rest of the East, hey, what is Milwaukee doing at 7-1? Are we serious here? What are they doing at 7-1? So if you can't bet Boston, and you don't have to because you've already got plus price, why lay 2-1? But for anybody who hasn't bet it, I can't recommend any other way than Boston, or the long shot is definitely the Knicks.
I'll mention this though. My thought process was, if the Heat were able to get into where they played the Knicks in the first round with a healthy Jimmy Butler, I might have liked the Heat instead to go all the way. I just think that side of the bracket is the easiest. And so just throwing that out there. So for the Western Conference, got to be transparent here, right, Mr. Veno? Before the season, I bet the Lakers to win the West plus 800. And I think they're somewhere around plus 1,000 right now. If I'm betting one team right now to win the West, based on who I think can actually win, based on the odds that we can get, I think it has to be the Dallas Mavericks. I think similar to the Knicks, they have the easiest road. They can have the best player on the court pretty much every single night. And I trust Jason Kidd as a coach. He's gotten a lot better than when he first started. So I think they're hungry. I like the improvements they've made to their team. They've been playing their best basketball to end the year. I think the Mavs at close to 7-1 are a pretty solid pick to come out of the West. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think bracket means everything in the West, Ski. And to your point, Dallas we both just said we think they're getting through the Clippers. And then you would wind up with either Sacramento, New Orleans, or the Thunder. And let's just assume it's the Thunder. It is their first crack at it. And I would trust Luka to win that series. So that puts them in a final against Denver, and you go from there. Of course, with Denver, as I look, if it winds up Denver, Minnesota, Denver's had a tough time with Minnesota this year. Now,
I
that's
pick
not to say
Minnesota.
it's not to say they can't swing it in the playoffs, but Minnesota, I just remember that game where Denver just recently played them for the number 1 seed, and Denver was at home and lost. Or no, they won that game and they lost another game. But Minnesota has given them a tough time, and that could be a real grind out series where Dallas might be sitting there waiting. 6-1. I don't know. Did you see better than 6-1 on Dallas to get out of the West?
Well, the I only did check Superbook and I saw plus 675. So
Okay.
I can go around and line shop other places, but at that
Good
price,
price.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah, because you can make the case they can get through 2 rounds a lot easier than Denver can get through 2 rounds.
And with these conference winners, you just have to win 2 rounds and you can hedge. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it. And I think we had a pretty solid discussion here, Vino. So we've been on here for just under an hour. I think it's about that time where I ask you if there's anything you would like to promote, and also maybe you like something we've talked about a little bit more than the rest.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ski. I'm just seeing something here. Knicks, just to reach the conference finals, don't have to win it, but just to reach it, plus 250. And maybe the Knicks at plus 250, if they get by Philly, they're home free. That's all stuff we can look at another time. I'll start with this, wagertalk.com. For those who watch when I'm on with Skee all the time, I start with this, wagertalk.com. If you want free access, free to all the video content, all the written content that they provide over there, roster of 30 handicappers, Skee and myself, part of that crew. You can get it all for free just by dropping your email address over there at wagertalk.com. Again, they cover every sport imaginable. So if you have betting interests outside of the NBA, you're going to get video analysis, written analysis each and every day, wagertalk.com. If you want to go through the NBA playoffs with a selection service, my plays are over there on my homepage, Rob Veno at wagertalk.com. For the show, Skee, we went over some stuff that I like. But why don't I leave it at this? I'll use one of the series that we talked about as a best bet. I just don't think that Milwaukee's going to beat Indiana in that series. And the line has shifted. I think you have to lay 5 cents now with the Pacers in most spots, but keep looking. But I think the Pacers win that series. I think the Pacers are young. I think they're hungry. And I think the Bucks just look like a disorganized mess at this point in time. And without Giannis, I went through all the numbers that he provided in that series, and you just can't do without that if you're Milwaukee. So give me the series price on the Pacers at minus 105 to go ahead and beat Milwaukee.
All right, good stuff there from Mr. Vino. And like I said, if you want to find his work or my work, the link to both of our profiles at Wager Talk are in the description to the video. And that is where you get every single bet that I make as soon as I make it. I will say, for my members here on YouTube, Saturday morning, before the game start, early Saturday morning, I'll share my series and futures bets that I've locked in. So you will get to see that if you're a member. My best bet for the show, I'm gonna go with the series bet as well, and I'm going with the Knicks at minus 110. I feel like there's a lot of advantages for them versus a banged up Joel Embiid and Philadelphia 76ers team. Knicks are healthy right now. I think they get the job done. So good stuff from Mr. Ravino. Always appreciate you taking the time to come join us. For the chat, we appreciate you. Absolutely the best chat in the game. The show is nothing without you guys. On that note, best of luck if you tell. Good luck on all of your action. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll catch you again next week. Peace.